Sisters of Frida released a report on disabled women's perspectives on independent living during the pandemic. Some members shared their own experiences.
Long live our movements while we must fight. Long may we resist what is wrong for what's right, till all our descendants can live in the light, not locked behind doors, out of range, out of sight.
Hello, my name is Jumoke and I'm a disabled black woman living in London. I have polio and scoliosis.
Hello, I'm Eleanor. I'm a wheelchair user, and for most of the pandemic I have been shielding and safe and staying at home.
My name's Michelle Baharia and I'm a disabled woman, and during lockdown I had quite a lot of issues trying to live independently, because normally I'm supported by my partner in quite a lot of things, and my partner got sick.
Hi, I'm Anahita. I'm going to speak a bit about how coronavirus and the lockdown have affected me. I have spina bifida and I'm a full-time wheelchair user, so I'm not able to stand or walk at all.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I've been asked to talk about how being disabled has had an impact on my time during the pandemic. I have a baby who's actually 1 now and a 3.5-year-old. The impact for me has been that I found actually life is a lot easier on lockdown as a disabled mum.
My name's Sarah. I live in Birmingham. I'm a wheelchair user and I have 24-hour care from a team of 6 PAs that I employ. In terms of my independent living, obviously the toughest part has been shielding when you can't really shield because you've got people coming out left, right and centre of the flat.
My name is Sarifa Patel. I'm a disabled mother of a disabled adult child and also a carer for my husband.
We all belong and are seen and are heard. That vision growing invites others in. The more we come together, the more we will win.
This is the very first time that I've had a job that I wasn't actually physically present at the premises or at the offices. And it's actually been quite a positive change for me. I have a leg brace and use 2 crutches. And because it rains so much in the UK, I'm usually quite afraid and have to be really incredibly careful whenever I'm going out and about, because of course when the floors are slippery it increases my chances of falling and potentially hurting myself. So it's been quite a positive change having the option to actually be able to work from home.
I don't drive, so I rely on buses. Buses aren't the safest during a pandemic, but I don't really have much of a choice, so that's how I get around. And also because I'm using my hands on my wheelchair and constantly using my hands for everything, I have to be really conscious of keeping my hands clean and protecting myself as much as possible. My anxiety has definitely gotten worse, and that has affected my studies and my teaching practice for sure.
At the start of lockdown, I found it a little bit difficult how there was all this attention on having a daily walk and daily exercise, and it was pretty much impossible for me to go out with a baby in a pram and a little toddler because I used crutches and it just wasn't safe, and I felt really quite guilty about the fact that I was just at home with them all the time, even though we had the garden, even though we were very active. Found that quite difficult.
I have dyslexia, and number sequencing and things like that are really difficult for me. I can access my bank because my partner normally accesses my bank for me so that I don't get locked out or shut out from it. And I think quite often a lot of these logistical things, it's really difficult to do. And there were guidelines on the government's website about what to do over certain things. I couldn't read them. They were too complicated. They weren't in plain English. There wasn't an easy read version anywhere. And I was having to, you know, it was really stressful, and I was having to contact people and asking them to explain things to me.
At times when my PAs have not had to come, my mum can't get to me. I've even had a neighbour in my block of flats come and sleep on the floor so that I'm not alone at night. But, you know, that's what's happened when PAs have had to just isolate.
In the beginning of the COVID, my husband had to go on a COVID plan because we thought he had COVID, and he had really high temperature and he suffered from really bad fatigue. And I had to stop, as a disabled woman, having carers coming in for myself. And because of my son and my husband shielding at that time, they both had shielding letters, stop my carers. So it was extremely difficult for me. I had to be active and arrange. Luckily enough, there was a project in Newham where Saffron restaurants were providing hot food, a meal a day.
So it's affected my personal assistance, and that has the effect of affecting my ability to do things like shopping. I don't tend to use delivered food. Deliveries from local supermarkets like Ocado. I often use ethnic supermarkets, and they don't tend to have deliveries. So that has meant that I've to, change a bit and start changing dietary habits, if you want to call it that.
There's been this kind of rhetoric about government, press, public bodies about how like disabled people with underlying health conditions are vulnerable to COVID-19. And I think, well, first of all, it's patronizing to call people vulnerable. I really hate that word. But also to describe a population as innately vulnerable to something, like depoliticizes the issue and makes it seem inevitable. And actually, this situation was never inevitable. It was in fact the minister that said that, what happened during the pandemic was the years of result of years and years of policy decisions. And I saw it summed up really well on Twitter by, I think it was a scientist at Imperial, who said that your susceptibility to something may be more biologically driven. You may be more susceptible to catching to having ill effects of a virus, but your vulnerability to something is socially and politically driven.
There's this institutional ableism everywhere. We saw it with the do not resuscitate forms being sent out arbitrarily to disabled people. We've seen it with filters for ventilators, one over there. Keep the ventilators for the healthy non-disabled people who need them. And it's just shown us that our lives aren't valued, and there needs to be an inquiry. We've just seen it this year, time and time again. There needs to be an inquiry.
Visit the Sisters of Frida YouTube and Instagram pages to see the full videos.
Emancipation is waiting for us all now. Pull together, find those who are missing so that we may grow. Even now, it's just the beginning. We've come so far, but there's further to go. All now, pull together, find those who are missing, so that we may grow. Even now, it's just the beginning. We've come so far, but there's further to go.